Hello everyone, it's me, Rory Paddock for Racing Daily. It's day one, it's Thursday, it's Newmarket's July Meeting, 3 days of top-class group racing action. And myself and John Arnold are going to be going through the cards each morning, every single race, hopefully with a hat full of winners along the way. So, John, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. We've got the 150. It is, well, it's a bit of a tough race in the sense that it's not attracted a drastic field. It's the Group 3, it's the Bahrain Trophy, it's over 1 mile 5, it's 3-year-olds. 5 runners go to post. Current market leader, we've got Scandinavia, Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, currently priced at around 6 to 5. We've got Further for the Andrew Borden yard, that's around 11 to 4. Oisin Murphy is booked for the ride there. Further finished third in the Queen Vase, and Scandinavia wasn't too far back. I think it was less than a length back in fifth in the same race. They obviously renew their rivalry today. You've got Nightmare Dancer 10 to 3, and then it's 14 to 1 and 18 to 1 about the other two. Where's your money going in the opener, mate?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about the race at Ascot. That everybody took part in that race in this field, apart from the nighttime dancer runner. That's the only one that didn't take part. I think, from a betting perspective, it's a win bet either for Scandinavia or for Further. Interestingly, Scandinavia is going to have a hood fitted, so maybe there's an issue with the horse wandering around a bit. So for me, I will side with Scandinavia. I think that Moore will correct the horse from where it was. It wasn't that far away at Ascot, so a tentative short price win stake on the first race for Scandinavia.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think it's just between the first two, isn't it? I know it's a bit boring when you've got an 11 to 4 and a 6 to 5 shot. There's 5 runners you could potentially try and find something to finish in the place, but I think those two are just head and shoulders above the rest, as you probably saw at Ascot, and the same will be probably seen again today in the opener. It's a real tough one in the sense that, well, who am I going to side with? I think Scandinavia is certainly going to get a lot closer than it did at Ascot. I'm probably with you in terms of gun to the head. I'd probably have to go Scandinavia to win, but I'm going to be a chicken and I'm going to go for the reverse forecast. It's not going to pay much if it comes in, but I think if you can scrape a little bit of profit out of a race like this, then you've done well to move on to hopefully something that you're perhaps a bit stronger on later on the day. Further in Scandinavia, look head and shoulders above the rest. If they finish first and second, they'll take that. It doesn't matter what order. Uh, Again, slight preference would be Scandinavia, like you, but no strong fancy in terms of which way it goes. As long as those two pull clear of the field, I don't really care how they end up. And that'd be my sort of bit of a chicken sort of bet for the first race to hopefully get out unscathed. Moving on to the 225, let's have a look who's in the runners and riders here. We've got the likes of Godolphin's Maximised, who is unbeaten in 2 starts. That's 6 to 4. Near enough vying for favouritism, or nearly joint favouritism. We've got Brussels for the Aidan O'Brien yard at 7 to 4, second favourite. Obviously, we've got other unbeaten horses. We've got Gel Pepper for Paul and Oliver Cole, Zavateri for Eve Johnson Horton, and then you've got Comical Point and Do or Do Not at bigger prices. Again, similar to the first race, it's going to be a bit boring, but it looks like to be a Ballydoyle horse and another horse that are going to be the ones vying it out for favouritism and vying it out for the win if we were to just go off the odds alone. Maximised has done more. Finished ahead of Havana Hurricane, who went on to win the Windsor Castle. That's certainly much stronger form compared to anything else in the race. But then you're an idiot if you readily dismiss an Aidan O'Brien horse. You know, it's unbeaten. Brussels did what it had to do, albeit it's not the form of what Maximised has shown. But there's nothing to say that horse doesn't come on leaps and bounds and is a Ballydoyle superstar for the future that just hasn't been tapped into yet. Again, I'm not going to be boring. I'm not going to go for the reverse forecast, but I couldn't put anyone off. I think those two are the horses that are head and shoulders. I'm hoping that what we've seen on paper so far is the clue as to who wins this. I think if Brussels was perhaps a bit of a bigger price, say 5 to 2, something around that, it'd be more of an attractive proposition. But the stato in me, I'm going to go with what we see on paper. Maximised has won both of its races. It's beaten a horse that's gone on to win at Royal Ascot. That's really strong form, and I'm hoping Maximised can make it 3 from 3. Again, another race where I'm not overly strong. Uh, Looks to be a 2-horse race. This is where one of the other 4 will obviously come and win now, John. But yeah, do you think it's just one of those 2?
Yeah, I do, and I do think it's one of those two. I was impressed how Maximise won at Epsom, and you're right, the form is strong. Brussels won a very good maiden though, and there's some good subsequent winners that came out of that race at the Curragh. It's a Wootton Bassett colt. They paid was it 300,000 guineas they paid for Brussels. So it's a serious horse for them. And we've seen his runners come here before and go on to bigger things as well. So I'm going to go with Brussels to win. I think it's as good as they're talking it up. So yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised like you if Maximised proved the form was better and it leads at home. But for me, the bet is Brussels.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? As soon as you see Aidan O'Brien and Moore in the form but next to a horse, it automatically give it an extra handful of lengths anyway. So it's yeah. Look, I think it's one of those. It's between the two. Hopefully, at least one of us is right, and we sort of live to fight another day and on to the next race. The 3 o'clock, we've got the first sort of heritage handicap of the 3-day meeting. It's the Bet Boost at Bet365 handicap, 6 furlong, class 2 for 3-year-olds. Um, there's a horse that I've been following since it did well at Ascot last year, and it's Columnist, but it's done absolutely nothing this year. I'm leaving it well alone today, but if it comes in, then you'll find me crying somewhere. Tower Soul, around 8 to 1, won its last 2 races. Simon and Ed Christopher horse. You've got Double Rush. Charlie Hill's team finished 3rd last time out. Prince of India has been well supported. That's around 6 to 1. What else have we got in the betting there? Yeah, we've got the Hucklesbrook, who actually beat Double Rush last time out. Ryan Moore, but for the ride, that's won its last 2 starts. Open race, mate. Where are we going in the 3 o'clock?
You mentioned one there of the two that I'm interested in. I like Tamazol. It won very, very well at Doncaster. Very impressive. I know it's gone up £11, but I think at the price, I think it's a good each way bet. This is I think actually on the card today, when you look at the 7 races that they've got there today, this probably is the most interesting race of all. I think it's probably the most open race of all the races there today. So Tower Soul each way, one of the picks for me. And the other horse I'm going to go with is Realign because Realign was the favourite for the Holyrood Stakes at Ascot and it came 9th out of the 24 runners. Tom Marquand's riding it today for William Haggis. And I just think that this horse it didn't run that badly at Ascot. It got beat by a very good horse in Adriska. And I think that it will run a better race today. It could be one of those ones where it's a better horse hiding in the handicap. So the 2 for me are Tamasol and Realign.
Yeah, I couldn't put you off Realign either. I fancied it at Ascot as well. I was of the same opinion that it's a potential group horse running in a handicap. Obviously, it flattered to deceive, but
Mm,
9th out of 24, it wasn't as if it was a complete no hope.
no.
I think this is perhaps a weaker race as well, so that might be a bit more helpful. I mean, when I picked out these selections last night, I must admit, I noted down Double Rush simply because I think it would get closer to the horse that beat it, that Hucklesbrook. But at the time of looking at them, Hucklesbrook was around 11 to 2 and Double Rush was about 6 to 1. Looking at the betting today, Hucklesbrook's now 9 to 1 and Double Rush has been backed into 9 to 2. So it sort of put me in a bit of a quandary whereby I thought Double Rush at around 6 to 1 was a decent each way bet to finish in the top 3, and I was quite happy with that if it placed small bit of profit to take home. However, it's now not that case. Um, so it's left me in an absolute quandary. So I'm going to go with another horse at a massive price. Makes the handicap debut. I think it won by like 6.5 lengths last time out. It's been gelded since, and that's Azure Zane for Richard Fahey Yard. Now Richard Fahey, his horses haven't been firing of late. I think he's had 3 winners in the last 2 weeks out of something like just over 50 odd horses that is sent out. So again, it's one of those whereby I think the head of the market is so competitive that, Double Rush, Realign, Tower Sol, you've got Hucklesbrook in there as well. They all have serious chances. Even the top weight Invictus Gold's a former course and distance winner, you would think as a decent shout. Those sort of 4, 5, 6 horses, I think if you were looking for the winner, I think they're probably going to come from that sort of like handful of horses. But in a race like this, where there's, I think it's 18 runners, there might be a bookie that's generous enough to pay 4 or 5 places. Then I'm hoping that a couple of those sort of more fancied runners fail to deliver, and one at a big price could sneak in there. Um, I don't think I'm strong enough on or on any of the bigger horses, sorry, more fancied horses. I did put Double Rush down if I'm being completely transparent, but at 9-2, it's now not really an each way bet. So Azure Zane, small, little bit of interest play. I think you're right. This is probably the best race of the day, really, in terms of how intriguing it is and where it could potentially point further down the line. These 3-year-olds, there could be some pretty decent group performers maybe one day. But yeah, Azure Zane, small stakes, tentative each way bet. So hopefully, if the gelding operations, added extra bit of spice, if it's come on for its first ever victory, the fact that it's in its first ever handicap, it's off a low mark. I'll ignore the fact that the yard are not in form, and hopefully this horse can just outrun its odds. Is kind of what I'm hoping. Currently around 50-1. So, whether or not it sneaks into a place, I'd be happy if it does. Last of 3 o'clock done and dusted. Obviously, the big race of the day, the 3:35. It is the Group 2 1 mile 4 Prince of Wales Stakes. We have another small field, just 5 runners going to post. Ghostwriter has been heavily backed. It's 11-2 favourite, clear favourite now. Then we've got Palladium 4-1, Wimbledon Hawkeye 11-2, and then you've got the 2 Godolphin horses, El Cardobe and Arabian Crown at 7-1 and 17-2 respectively. Again, considering this is the big race of the day on Thursday, quite disappointed, mate. Yeah, I'm not overly confident about anything. I'm hoping you are, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Considering it's meant to be the centerpiece of the day, it's only got 5 runners. In years gone by, when I've watched this race and attended this meeting, there's been better quality runners in this race totally than what you've got today. Ghostwriter, they went and paid 2 million for this horse, and they've had a third behind. That they had a third in the Hardwick Stakes at Ascot, and then they had a fourth behind Rebels Romance as well previously. But I can't look to the favourite. To me, a horse that I've backed in the race in previous races before is Palladium. Palladium ran very well at Goodwood previously as well, and Ryan Moore is taking the ride today for John Gosden. So for me to have a small play in the race, I would just have a win bet on Palladium because I'm not convinced by Ghostwriter, even though they've gone out and paid 2 million for it. It's an awful lot of money for a horse. It hasn't really shown that desire to kick on in its races. And looking at the course and looking at how they climb up to the finish on the Newmarket July course, I think Palladium might grind it out. So for me, small play, Palladium to win.
Yeah, I'm the exact same as you. Obviously, they met at Ascot, so they sort of renew their rivalry, Palladium and Ghostwriter. Um, they've obviously got lively chances. That's why they're first and second in the market, I think. The only thing that worries me slightly is Wimbledon Hawkeye's wait for age allowance. I think that could play a major part. Um, I think the race comes from those 3. I'm writing Ghostwriter off. I think even purely from a betting perspective, even if I was somewhat strong on it, 11-10, there's no value in backing that either. Um, I think out of those 3, I think the one telling factor for me is that Palladium has the most recent win. I mean, you look through the form book and you're looking on the bare form of the 5 horses. I think there's only 2 recent wins between all of them. One of them's for a Godolphin horse, and the other one is Palladium in terms of what you see on the race card. Again, Ryan Moore booked. I think that's obviously always a positive. Same as you, not overly confident, but I think Palladium is worth a bet, especially at the current price. I think, what is it now? 4-1. I
Yeah.
think that's quite generous. I'll take that small win bet in what looks a bit of an underwhelming race. And we were talking before we recorded this as well. The next race we've got the 4:10. We go from a Group 2 to a 6 furlong fillies maiden, which is an absolute head scratcher. It's a 9-runner race. Obviously, little to no form to go off. Current market leader, I think we have, is Crimson Rose for Charlie Appleby, William Buick, Godolphin horse, finished third on debut. And then you've got Country Artiste for Clive Cox, finished second last time out. And then you've got the unraced George Bowie horse, Night Shining, who has Ryan Moore booked. But then you've got other horses making their debut. You've got Welcome Retreat, who finished third last time out. Harlequin Angel finished second last time out. Again, it's another race where it's like, well, it's sort of slightly underwhelming. I mean, I appreciate maidens have their place, and a superstar could come out of this race potentially, but it seems a bit of a baffling one to have this right after the big race of the day. If I'm gonna, again, can't be overly strong in a race like this. They're all obviously beautifully bred. They all represent big time yards. We've got the likes of Charlie Appleby, Clive Cox, Hugo Palmer, George Bowie, Richard Hannon, James Owen. Some of the big principal trainers are in there. Again, it's hard to be strong in a race like this. Of course, the George Bowie horse has a solid chance just based on jockey booking alone. I'm hoping race experience will probably play a part, and that might count for something. So I'm hoping we're going to go with Country Artiste. Can shake off a signs of green. She was a bit green last time out, but I didn't dislike that. If she's come on for that and she's learned from that, then hopefully Clive Cox's filly could do the business and go one better here. But again, your guess is as good as mine in a race like this. Nothing that I'm going to be dragging a ton of money out of the wallet for. Country Artiste, 3-1, few quid on the nose. Yours, mate?
Yeah, it's the one I picked out yesterday. Ran a very solid race, second at Newbury. Scat Daddy, Dan Sire, 3-1. Very, very open affair. Like you said, some very well-bred horses, some very big trainers. Country Artist, I think, normally by history, if you come second in a race at Newbury as a 2-year-old, and normally you go on and win other races. So Country Artiste, that's the horse I actually picked out yesterday.
Well, hopefully it's great minds, mate. Penultimate race, 4:45. We've got a 1 mile listed race for 3-year-olds. We've got 3 Godolphin horses in the 8-runner field. We've got Elarak, who's a course and distance winner for Charlie Hills. Won his last 2 races. Both races are 3-year-old. The Richard Hannon horse, King of Cities, disappointed last time out, but that's been heavily backed into 7-2. The current clear favourite, we've got Opera Ballo for Charlie Appleby, 5-4. Again, another race where at least, I mean, the only blessing with this race is there's 8 runners. So potentially there's a bit of each way value somewhere. But your guess is as good as mine. Where are we going in that, mate?
Alarak each way, course and distance, 2 from 2 this season. Good horse by Kingman. Yeah, I think for me that's the value in the race. Each way Alarak.
Yeah, again, I'm going to go for an each way punt. I'm going to leave Opera Bello alone. Based on jockey bookings, then obviously Opera Bello looks to be the first choice of the 3 Godolphin horses. Buick jumps him into the saddle there. But I'm going to take a chance on the Britannia Stakes winner, Arabian Story, to make it 3 wins in a row. Similar to Alarak, won his last 2 races. Has a Royal Ascot win under his belt. Probably has some of the better form in the book, just based on the fact that it won a race like that. Arabian Story, just like Alarak, 8-1. Hopefully at least one of the 2 can make it 3 wins on the spin. Again, small stakes, each way punt, Arabian Story. Probably has some of the best form in there. And I'll take that to finish in the top 3 at 8-1. Yeah, I'm happy enough with that to just sort of like have a bit of interest. And then the final race, we've got the 5:20. It's a Class 3 handicap over a mile. 12 runners. Again, a bit more like it, a bit more competitive. Current market leader, I think we have is Boyfriend. No, it's not. It's Parole Doro, the Michael Bell horse. Boyfriend is the second favourite at 9-2. Dutch Decoy, the former course and distance winner, 17-2. Who I've got a soft spot. I followed that horse a couple of times this season. It's not delivered. Unfortunately, I've ignored it today. So obviously today is the day that it'll end up landing the spoils. I've gone for one at a bigger price. Hugo Palmer's horse, C. Galazzo, returned from a really lengthy break, and really disappointed at Ascot. I think it finished something like 26th of 28, or it was either 28 of 30 in one of the big handicaps. I think after such a big break, I think the fact that the horse was still entered in that race probably indicates to me that they think the horse is good enough at home. I'm hoping that run will have dusted off an absolute ton of cobwebs. This is obviously a much weaker race than the one it raced at Ascot. Again, just like I probably sound like a broken record, nothing I'm overly strong with. Oisin Murphy's booked for the ride, so a decent enough jockey in there. Yeah, I'm hoping that this being a less competitive race, the fact that the horse has now returned from a lengthy layoff, hopefully it sort of grease the joints a bit for the horse now that it's got a recent run under its belt. I expect certainly to finish much better than it did at Ascot. Yeah, Seagalazzo around 14-16-1. Small each way bet to hopefully go well in the lucky last. Where are we going in the last one, mate?
The two for me, I think Boyfriend is a decent horse. It ran well behind My Cloud, who went on to win very well at Ascot, and then it won again and then it won at Nottingham last time. So I think Boyfriend will be up there. But yeah, it's a very short price, 5-2. So if you're going to back Boyfriend, I think that's a win bet. From the each way bet, I'm going to go for Where's Freddie, course and distance, 3 out of 3. So I think that's an interesting runner. So for me, it's Where's Freddie each way. I think that's around about 10-1 at the moment, and Boyfriend for a win bet.
Brilliant. So that wraps up day one of Newmarket's July meeting. I've been Rory Paddock. He's been John Arnold. This is for Racing Daily. Obviously, make sure you head on over to racing-daily.com. Follow us on our socials at racingdaily_com. We've got full race previews of all of today's ITV action from Newmarket. We've also got Alan Morris, who's a tipster who's on absolute fire at the moment. He's got his 2 best bets away from Newmarket. Obviously, we'll be doing these videos for all 3 days, so make sure you stay tuned each morning. Thanks for watching, and as always, fingers crossed, touch wood, and good luck if you follow.